Welcome to our deep dive on renting versus buying for wealth builders. In this video, we will challenge common wisdom, reveal the hidden math, and give you a practical framework so you can make a confident decision. Let's begin by outlining what we'll cover and how to think strategically about homeownership versus renting. Here is our roadmap. First, we provide context and bust the myth that a primary residence is always an investment. Next, we break down total cost of ownership, and then we walk through how to use a rent versus buy calculator. After that, we evaluate 3 practical ownership paths. We will then cover risk management and a high earner action plan. To reinforce learning, we include quick quizzes. Finally, we summarize key takeaways and next steps. Let's move to the core misconception that drives many rushed purchases. Before we proceed, this is educational content and not personalized financial advice. Your circumstances are unique, and you should consult with licensed financial and tax professionals before making decisions. With that important note, let's transition into the dominant myth about homeownership. Many aspiring homeowners consider owning property essential for wealth building. However, a primary residence is primarily a consumption cost, similar to an expensive car, even if it can appreciate. Historically, broad home price appreciation often tracks inflation. The outsized gains people cite frequently come from leverage via mortgages. Leverage amplifies both gains and losses, making timing and holding period matter. Therefore, the decision requires careful analysis rather than slogans. Now, let's visualize the difference between a primary residence and an investment property. This diagram distinguishes a primary residence, which is mainly a consumption cost, from a rental property, which has clearer investment characteristics such as income, depreciation, and potential appreciation. Historically, home appreciation has often roughly kept pace with inflation. The main driver of spectacular returns is leverage through mortgages, which also raises risk. Furthermore, transaction costs such as commissions and closing fees are significant. Consequently, the shorter your holding period, the more likely renting wins. Now, let's quantify the full cost of owning to see why break-even can take time. This pie chart illustrates a typical breakdown of total ownership cost. The largest share often comes from mortgage interest early in the loan. Property taxes and insurance add recurring costs. Maintenance and HOA or condo fees can be substantial and are frequently underestimated. Closing and transaction costs, when amortized across the holding period, add another slice. Finally, the down payment has an opportunity cost, because that money could have been invested elsewhere. Understanding these components helps you evaluate whether expected appreciation and equity build justify the costs. Next, we will look at how to use a rent versus buy calculator to tailor this to your local market. To use a rent versus buy calculator effectively, start by gathering local inputs: purchase price, property taxes, homeowners insurance, HOA fees, and a realistic annual maintenance percentage. Next, include closing costs and future selling costs, along with your expected holding period. Model your current rent and expected rent increases. Set mortgage variables like interest rate, down payment, and whether you can earn a return on cash if you keep renting. Include the opportunity cost of your down payment and reserve funds. Then, run multiple scenarios across different holding periods and appreciation assumptions. Your goal is to find the break-even point, where owning's after-tax cost becomes cheaper than renting. With the tool in mind, let's run through a quick formula-based example in Markdown. Let's outline a lightweight approach. Suppose a $400,000 home with 10% down, a 6.75% mortgage rate, 1.2% property tax, 0.3% insurance, a $250 HOA, and 1% of the home value for maintenance annually. Compare to rent at $2,500 per month with 3% annual growth and a 5% investment return on the cash you did not use for a down payment. Selling costs are around 7% of the sale price. In short, the higher the selling costs and the shorter your holding period, the more likely renting wins. Break-even occurs when cumulative ownership costs, adjusted for equity build and appreciation, become less than cumulative rent net of investment gains. Next, let's explore the 3 practical paths to property ownership. There are 3 practical paths. First, rent initially to gain flexibility while you stabilize your work and learn the market. Second, buy a condo as a lower cost entry, but be careful about early resale and owner occupancy rules. Third, house hacking involves purchasing a small multifamily property, living in one unit, and renting the others so that rental income subsidizes your mortgage. Now, we will examine each path in detail, beginning with the stability strategy of renting first. With the rent first, buy later approach, you secure a short lease when relocating, stabilizing your work and routine. This lets you study neighborhoods, commute patterns, and market dynamics, while you keep optionality. The expense of a poor purchase decision or a forced quick sale often exceeds the cost of renting temporarily. As you learn, you can prepare your financing, build reserves, and develop investment criteria. To visualize the timeline for this approach, let's look at a simple schedule. This timeline shows months 0 to 3 dedicated to taking a short-term lease and researching the market. Months 3 to 6 focus on mortgage pre-approval and narrowing neighborhood choices. Months 6 to 9 are for touring, analyzing properties, and refining assumptions. Months 9 to 12 provide a decision checkpoint. Renew the lease and wait, or proceed to purchase if the numbers make sense. Now, let's consider the condo compromise and why it can be helpful but also risky if you plan to sell quickly. Condos often have a lower barrier to entry and offload exterior maintenance to the association, which can be appealing for busy professionals. However, selling a condo within a short period often wipes out early equity due to transaction costs and flat appreciation. Additionally, some condos restrict rentals, limiting exit options. Therefore, unless the condo can be rented when you leave, it may not function as a strong investment. To clarify trade-offs, let's compare a condo as a starter home versus as a strategic rental asset. On the left, a condo as a starter home offers lower upfront cost, fewer maintenance responsibilities, and convenience. However, there is exposure to special assessments, and, most importantly, if sold in under 5 to 7 years, selling costs may negate gains. On the right, the condo as a strategic rental depends on rental permissions, strong HOA reserves, and rental economics such as cap rate after fees. It can work if held long-term or if rentability is strong. Now let's turn to the highest upside path, house hacking. House hacking means buying a small multifamily property, such as a duplex or triplex, living in one unit and renting out the others. Rental income can subsidize or even cover the mortgage, transforming your housing from a consumption expense into an income-generating asset. This approach demands more effort and risk management, including landlord responsibilities and compliance, but it can rapidly build equity and experience. To understand the cash flow mechanics, let's visualize the inflows and outflows. This flowchart starts with rents collected from the other unit, or units. After subtracting vacancy, you get effective gross income. Next, subtract operating expenses such as property taxes, insurance, maintenance, utilities, and any HOA fees to arrive at net operating income. Then, subtract debt service to calculate cash flow. Finally, your owner housing cost equals the personal unit cost minus your share of the net cash flow from the rented units. In strong scenarios, your effective housing cost can be near zero. To make it concrete, consider a sample monthly pro forma. This table shows a simplified duplex example. 2 units have market rents of approximately $1,650 each. A 5% vacancy factor reduces the effective gross income. Operating expenses including taxes, insurance, and utilities are deducted, along with a maintenance or capital expenditure reserve of 8%. Assuming self-management, the net operating income is calculated, followed by mortgage principal and interest to yield a modest positive cash flow. The owner's effective housing cost is the imputed market rent minus their share of the property's cash flow, significantly reducing out-of-pocket housing expense. Next, let's check your understanding with a quick quiz. Quiz time. The question is, true or false? Your primary residence reliably outperforms inflation and is therefore always a great investment. Option A is true. Option B is false. You may pause the video now to think about the answer. We will discuss the answer in the next section of the video. The correct answer is false. Historically, broad home price appreciation often tracks inflation, and the outsized returns people recount usually come from leverage. The primary residence does not inherently produce income and is primarily a consumption expense. Now let's do one more knowledge check about holding period and transaction costs. Second quiz. The question is, if you expect to move within 5 years, which option is often better and why? Option A, buy now, because equity builds quickly. Option B, rent, because transaction costs and short holding periods often negate gains. Option C, buy a condo, because HOA fees make it safer. You may pause the video now to think about the answer. We will discuss the answer in the next section of the video. The correct answer is to rent, because transaction costs and short holding periods frequently eliminate any early equity gains. The math often favors renting when your holding period is under 5 to 7 years. Next, let's consolidate an action plan for high earners who want to build wealth strategically. As a high earner, begin by stabilizing your finances. Eliminate high-interest debt and take full advantage of employer retirement matches. Build robust reserves that cover living expenses and property contingencies. Start with a smaller asset like a duplex rather than an oversized single-family home to keep overhead manageable. Focus on income potential rather than buying out of obligation. Use conservative underwriting, stress testing vacancy, repairs, and interest rates. Finally, plan exit options by ensuring rentability and compliance with local ordinances and financing rules. Now let's step back and visualize a decision map to guide your next move. This mind map centers on the wealth-building housing choice. Branches include budget and reserves, time horizon, local market conditions, lifestyle needs, and your chosen strategy path. Under strategy, you can select rent first, condo, or house hacking. Time horizon is critical. Under 5 to 7 years typically favors renting due to transaction costs, while longer horizons may justify buying or house hacking. Local market factors include rent-to-price ratios and realistic appreciation outlooks. Budget and reserves encompass down payment, emergency funds, and capital expenditure planning. Lifestyle needs such as commute and space requirements must align with your strategy. Next, we will address risk and mitigation so you can proceed confidently. Be aware of landlord responsibilities, including proper tenant screening, compliant leases, and fair housing laws. Liquidity is limited in real estate. Selling can be slow and expensive. Market risk means appreciation may lag, and rents may decline. Interest rate risk can be managed by locking rates appropriately and evaluating buy-down options. Operational risk requires planning for unexpected maintenance and maintaining capital expenditure reserves. Ensure adequate insurance coverage, potentially including an umbrella policy, and get professional advice where appropriate. Now let's summarize today's most important takeaways. In summary, a primary residence functions largely as consumption, with leverage explaining many outsized returns. Because transaction costs are high, short holding periods frequently favor renting. Use a localized rent versus buy calculator and stress test your assumptions. Consider the 3 paths: rent first for flexibility, condos with caution, and house hacking for higher reward if you can manage the responsibilities. For high earners, first stabilize your finances, then pursue purchases that produce income. Finally, let's close with a quick thank you and a call to action. Thank you for watching. If this video helped you think more clearly about renting versus buying, please like the video, share it with a friend, and subscribe for more. In the comments, tell us which path you are considering: rent first, condo, or house hack, and why. Your perspective can help others in the community. See you next time.